Some House Republicans are floating a resolution to oust Congressman John Katko as ranking member on the Homeland Security Committee. Congressman Dan Bishop launched the effort to remove Katko. Sources say Bishop, a member of the Trump-aligned House Freedom Caucus, serves under Katko on the Homeland panel. Katko came under fire for signing on to the bipartisan infrastructure bill. He released a statement explaining his support and saying, quote, "The dire state of our infrastructure is abundantly clear to central New York families and businesses. The bill makes a $24 billion investment to repair roads, bridges, and mass transit projects in New York State." He added that while he supported the historic infrastructure bill, he will stand against Democrats on the Build Back Better Act.
Team Rising joins us now to discuss. Max Alvarez is host of the Working People podcast and editor-in-chief at The Real News. Philip Wegman is a White House reporter for Real Clear Politics. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Thanks, guys.
So, Philip, what's the story here? How likely is this removal to take place, and what are the behind-the-scenes politics of this?
The story here is that there are a lot of Republicans who think that these 32 GOP members, 32, I think 13 in the House and 19 in the Senate, they're of the belief that their colleagues basically, provided Biden a victory when he needed it most, and they're upset about it. Their thought is that the infrastructure package was entirely too bloated, and that by crossing over party lines, that these guys gave Democrats something that they could run on in 2022. And so I'm not surprised that you have some in the party who are saying, look, they need to be disciplined. They need to be brought to the fore for what they did. And this is, I think, a preview, perhaps, of what we'll see when, if next year goes Republicans' way. What we can expect if Republicans take back the House. That they're going to make it clear that there's going to be a premium on that kind of bipartisanship, and that if you balk party leadership and you go along, then there can be consequences. You can get kicked off your committee seats.
And I mean, Max, this was a bipartisan infrastructure bill, building roads and bridges larded up with fossil fuel subsidies. Like, does this mark kind of a bright line on which the other side is a new era where there is just nothing? Like, Democrats can't even give subsidies to the fossil fuel industry and get a handful of Republican votes without more conservative Republicans saying you ought to be thrown off the committee for subsidizing these fossil fuel industry. I mean, I guess it's good to have it in black and white like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how bright the line is, because I feel like, we've been eking into this for quite some time, but this is ultimately, the result of, years of, kind of mainstream media propaganda, like pitting segments of the population against one another, convincing every kind of segment of the population that the other side is their mortal enemy who wants to ruin America. You are seeing kind of the results of that. You are seeing that, as you said, Ryan, even like, I think that one thing I want to stress to folks watching is that, Biden really made a political commitment, right? This is where he wants to stake his flag, and he thinks that this is what voters are going to most respond to, is like Washington came together. There was a bipartisan kind of push for this infrastructure bill. Who doesn't want to fix the roads? The roads in this country suck. Infrastructure in this country sucks. It should be a slam dunk for anyone who puts their name on it, even though it is kind of, a really, I don't know. It's going to shock no one that I'm not crazy about this bill, right? For all the reasons that you said, Ryan, and also for all the reasons that folks like David Dayen have been kind of pointing out, that in fact it's going to kind of do what Trump wanted to do, which is like give a buttload of money to private contractors and basically sell our public infrastructure to do it, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, the point being that I do think, Ryan, that it is a sign that, that betting on bipartisanship, that betting that the public wants more than anything for Washington, people in D.C. to come together and kind of vote on practical things that people want, that's not really the case. We're going to see kind of next year how that bears out, but I think we all know how next year's elections are going to go, and the people who did kind of sign on to this from the Republican side, I think, will be disciplined, and they're going to learn not to kind of do it anymore. So bipartisanship as a sort of rallying cry in D.C. is not going to have the purchase that Democrats want it to.
Well, and Katko challenger Andrew McCarthy is a Republican from New York running on an America First agenda, supports a public health care option, and has pledged a commitment to protect Medicare. Andrew tweeted, quote, "The greatest threat to the Republican Party is not AOC, but rather limp-wristed closet Democrats like John Katko or Tom Reed who do nothing to oppose them." Philip, is this a preview of what we're going to be seeing for the next, 1,000 years of political infighting and just terrible bottom-of-the-barrel seeking craziness?
Well, earlier we talked about how the parties were too weak to actually sort of bring members into line on other issues and sort of discipline them when they step out. I think that what we're seeing there from Katko's challenger is that you've got someone who is willing to stake out some positions that certainly aren't traditionally conservative, that probably wouldn't fit inside the regular lines of the Republican Party, but he might have a shot regardless because partisanship is it's a heck of a motivator. So yeah, I'm not certain that this is that we're going to be able to learn too much from this challenger in particular. It'll be interesting to see if these 13 Republicans in the House actually do end up paying that much of a price. I think that if you take a step back, though, there are some moderate Republicans who are arguing within their caucus, no, we didn't just give Biden a win. Instead, people sent us to D.C. to compromise, and this was a worthy area of compromise. But in addition to that, they're saying, by supporting the bipartisan infrastructure package, we essentially were able to, de-link this from the larger reconciliation package. It took a bunch of time, and now that Republicans sort of helped pass, this infrastructure bill, Democrats are going to be on their own to, get the rest of the spending to the line, and it sort of, took away the leverage. I think the phrase from Mitch McConnell was that Republicans had managed to separate the sugar from the spinach. And we'll see if this was a smart tactical move. I think that right now you've got a lot of people in the base, the folks like Clifford Girth and others who want sort of accountability, but we'll see if the voters actually care enough to give it to them.
The dividing line is attitude, right? It's not. Right. It's actually, because you did have Republicans vote for this. There's Republicans are more able to take what 10 years ago would have been very non-typical or non-conservative, non-Republican positions on issues, particularly economic issues. But if they are fighting, it's an you are the most conservative if your attitude is the most hostile to Democrats and hostile to liberal takeover of the culture. Right. Do you see that?
Well, yeah. And to put a fine point on it, Max, this guy seems to want to own the libs while also embracing a bunch of progressive kind of economic ideas.
Yeah, owning the libs is a hell of a drug, right? I mean, like if you base your kind of politics on this sort of like two magnets kind of opposing each other, that's in a lot of ways like how politics today is shaped, right? And we see it on social media and in the news all the time, right? It's like what I need to do is oppose strongly whatever the person that I've declared as my enemy says, and then everyone kind of ends up in these sorts of weird corners that you can't necessarily sort of trace by kind of trying to determine what their true ideological conviction is, because whatever that conviction is, it takes a backseat to kind of opposing your enemy in the moment. But yeah, I mean, if populist Republicans want a slam dunk, who likes pharmaceutical companies, right? Who is happy about the cost of healthcare, right? It just go at it, right? I mean, because Democrats sure as hell aren't doing it, and it drives me nuts that this isn't something that we can all sort of rally around because we're all getting screwed over. But I also wanted to kind of clarify, one sort of thing is that this is kind of the situation that we put ourselves in, right? This is the result of years and years of maximalist kind of talking from politicians and the media, where anything, no matter what sort of proposal it is from the Democratic side, is seen as like the socialist takeover of America, right? I mean, the longer you push that, the more people are going to start to believe it, even to the point where they will be hostile to any of their representatives who vote for something that ultimately gives their party what they want. This is like how the kind of rightward shift actually works, right? I mean, because Biden comes in wanting to make compromise. Like, compromise is the virtue that he was signaling from the jump. And Republicans say, okay, but if you're going to compromise, we're going to go farther and farther right. And so then, the Republicans don't do that really when Democrats are in power, right? So one side is conceding more to the right while the right retreats farther back to the right. And that's how we've ended up kind of like with the sort of political chessboard that we have today.
It's a wild one, that's for sure. Max and Philip, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.